like to hear your thoughts on that. And then finally, we're talking about friendship and your friendship circles and the people who are truth tellers within your friendship circle. Do you have somebody like that? And how do you navigate their honesty? 0800 731 2000. Now, let's turn our attention today to this, with today marking the last day of Children's Mental Health Week, and this year's theme being Know Yourself, Grow Yourself. How do the lessons we teach our children define the adults they become, and more so, the little boys who turn into men? With social media often a place where negative narratives lie, just one example being the viral man or bear scenario, which played out last year, and a story appearing in the Telegraph this morning about how pinpointing men's icks is affecting their mental health. How can we encourage men to be more vulnerable and communicative? Well, Adam Slawson is an authenticity and relationship coach and joins me now. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Adam, I mentioned the theme, Know Yourself, Grow Yourself. What does that message, what does it mean to you as a transformation coach?
Hello, hi, yeah. It's huge. Yeah, I work with all my clients that self-awareness is the very first thing. So noticing what you're noticing, be able to see and reflect on your own behavior is absolutely transformational. So the method that I use, which is the LAM method, so liberation, so understanding how we think and feel, and then acceptance, being able to change your behaviors, you start to attract a different life. So in essence, that's how you grow. And when you make the change to look inward, the decision changes everything in your life, because change is hard, but so is anxiety or staying the same. That's also hard. And in essence, there's kind of a bit of suffering either way. But you might as well pick the one and try and change to take the one that is, self-love and acceptance along with it.
I wonder if you can reflect back for us about the kind of narratives you were told as a young person that have influenced your life choices up till now.
Yeah, there's the biggest one is big boys don't cry. That is huge. It was, and then, people like parents, obviously society, kind of mean well with that. They can do, but it literally locks men up from the neck down. We become prisoners, and we are conditioned essentially not to feel. That's one of them, and that makes it really hard to be in touch with our emotions, feel them. For me, for a lot of my life, I only really had three main emotions, which was happiness, maybe sadness, and then occasional anger. But there's loads in between, so I didn't even have the ability to recognize them. And then the other one was go to your room. When I heard that when I was a kid quite a lot, and again, meant well, but out in my relationships, when I came to have to deal with my emotions, I'd go numb and become avoidant and things like that. So these are the main two that jump to mind.
And that's interesting because, of course, we're now discussing this younger generation, the impact that these kind of messages, and they will be different for each person, have on the individual. And then the idea that sometimes they're so embedded within us that you don't even realize that they prove to be catalysts for negativity later on in a person's life. What advice would you be giving to people? I mean, is the idea that we all need to dig deep and confront some of these painful things, or is there a different way?
I think we do need to dig deep. There isn't necessarily a different way if you want to have real depth and authenticity in your life and relationships. Ultimately, we need to find a way to be able to face and understand how we work on the inside, and it's the analogy I use with my clients and to explain it is, if you imagine that your body is a hose pipe and the water running through that hose pipe is your emotions. When you're born, there's no kinks in the hose pipe, and the kinks in this being parental and social conditioning. So the energy of our emotions flows through us freely. When we're happy, we giggle. When we're sad, we cry. But as we get conditioned by our parents and society, each one of those things is like a kink in the hose pipe. So the emotions don't flow easily. You imagine a hose pipe with loads of kinks in it. Obviously, the water's not, or the emotions aren't flowing through it. Sure. And then you can just imagine that anxiety itself is like the hissing noise you get at a kink. It's pressure building up, and if it can't or doesn't or can't go somewhere, you are literally a pressure cooker waiting to explode, and that might, or you have to keep numbing yourself, certainly. And so for me, luckily, the numbing I did was kickboxing.
Right.
So I kickboxed for 17 years. I'm a black belt in kickboxing because I had anxiety.
Right.
And I was masking my emotions with exercise, but never getting to the root cause. So I think it's vitally important that that people do that.
We live in a world where we are bombarded with images and messages, and our phones have now become the conduit for everything and anybody, it seems. And it's difficult sometimes to sift through all that noise to find what is authentically good for us and what is less good for us, because it's on a constant stream. What are you saying, or what advice would you be giving to young men in particular in how to deal with this deluge?
I think first things with regards to our phone, the dopamine we get from our phone is easy and cheap, and it's not very long lasting, and so it literally is an addiction, in that context. And I have, when I was essentially addicted to kickboxing, you get a hit from it, and it makes you feel good momentarily. But to be able to deal with that deluge, it's have a space somehow that you can almost like a toolbox to lean on, which would be a go-to person, perhaps, to breathing exercises, cold showering, meditation, some sort of stretching practice to allow more space. So in your body to essentially absorb the energy of our emotions when it wants to flow, so that you can learn to respond instead of react. And so, and if there's a way to notice what you're noticing with regards to how much you're picking up your phone, to be able to pay attention, and with that, then you can start, as soon as you can see it, you can change it. And there's a philosophical statement, which is you can't be what you observe. So as soon as you can observe it, you're not it. And therefore that gives you an ability immediately to choose.
And I know part of your toolbox, so to speak, is the notion of vulnerability and the value thereof. But it's something more broadly that I think a lot of us fear. You're vulnerable, you're giving out, so to speak. And once you've told someone something, or you've done something, or you've revealed something, you can't take it back. And you worry that might then become a tool or a weapon that people use against you. Tell us a bit about why being vulnerable is healthy, or something, or to approach vulnerability is a healthy way to live our lives. But how do you ensure that you are not, bowled over by that vulnerability and end up sort of at a disadvantage?
Yeah. So a statement I use a lot is vulnerability is the catalyst to our freedom. It feels like a negative, but it's actually a hugely positive feeling. It's almost, to use the language of your soul, it's almost like the soul pointing you in the direction to go in, because if you can feel it, you can heal it, and it is an opportunity to be able to put yourself out there and be seen and heard and received in the authenticity that you are. And there is a risk with it. There is a deep wisdom in that feeling of insecurity, and there's no safety net. However, what is wise to do is push yourself a little bit, but not too far. There's a sweet spot, and it's a gradual step-by-step process. And so in the honing your ability to, like, each day challenge yourself to do one thing that makes you feel vulnerable. And then as you do that, it's like, if you think vulnerability means wound, and ability obviously means ability. So it's your ability to look into your wounds. And if boys and men can see it as, think of vulnerability as like going to the gym, but for your emotions. And every time you push into something that's vulnerable, it's like you're expanding your ability to hold the energy of your emotions. And therefore, again, you can be able to respond instead of react, because when you can hold your own energy, obviously and you get confident at doing that, when you're in conversation in a relationship or a partnership, and which they can be confronting at times, you can, as I said, you can learn to respond instead of react, and hold their energy as well, and it creates a space for constructive conversation.
Adam, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I was speaking there to authenticity and relationship coach Adam Slawson. For more on his work, go to adamslawson.com. That's adamslawson.com.